Welcome to Journey to Esquire, the podcast. I'm Jocelyn Hardrick, founder and president of Diversity Access Pipeline, Inc., the company behind this podcast and other great programs, like Journey to Esquire Scholarship and Leadership Program, which provides $2,000 cash scholarships to third-year law students and internships to second-year law students, along with leadership training and mentors. And Journey to Esquire, the blog, which provides insightful articles to help navigate you through law school and beyond. Find out more on our website, www.journeytoesquire.com. Hi, it's Jocelyn Hardrick, founder and president of Diversity Access Pipeline, Inc., the nonprofit that runs this podcast, Journey to Esquire, and the blog and the Scholarship and Leadership Program. Today, I'm excited. We're going to pass the mic to Lorna Brown-Burton, and she is a partner at Lubell, Rosen. She is licensed to practice law in Florida since 1987, so she has 36 years of experience. And her primary area of practice is workers' compensation defense, and she represents employers, self-insured, and carriers for over 30 years. She also has experience in labor and employment and Social Security disability, and Chapter 7 and 13 bankruptcy. So she has a great background in lots of different kinds of practices. She was also an adjunct professor at Broward College in the Paralegal Degree Program. And before joining her current firm as a partner managing the workers' comp department, she owned and operated her own firm for about a decade. And she helped found another firm, Brown-Burton DeMicco, PLLC. She was also an active member of the Legal Aid Board of Directors and held several officer positions within that organization. And she was a member of the Workers' Compensation section of the Florida Bar. There we go. Prior elected member of the Florida Bar Board of Governors, Young Lawyers Division. And she was elected president of the YLD section of the Broward County Bar Association. And she just completed a 3-year term on the Florida Bar Grievance Committee. So Lorna has been in a lot of positions in leadership and voluntary bar work, and we're so excited to have her here today. Before we go into all that wonderful experience that we talked about, we want to find out more about her journey to Esquire. Welcome, Lorna.
Welcome. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here and to share my journey to Esquire with you and your students today.
Thank you. So let's talk about why you decided to become a lawyer.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I did not start out wanting to be a lawyer. It was something that happened along the way, especially in high school. I began to think about that as an opportunity. And it was really through a professor, American history professor, that during the coursework and opportunity to do presentations, and I was part of a debate team, he said to me, have you ever thought about going to law school? And I have to say that my interest at that time was one more dealing with fashion, because I thought I was going to be in the fashion industry. And so I shared with that teacher, no, not law school. And he said, well, I think you're going to be wasting a talent. So think about it. And I went home and I shared that with my mother and father and my older brother. And my older brother looked at me and he said, do law school. And he said, if law school doesn't work out, you can always fall back on that fashion, but go to law school. And so I had that in the back of my head. And so the last day of high school, I happened to have gotten my notice that I actually got into University of Florida. And I told that professor that I was so excited I wanted to tell that professor. And it just so happened that morning we got an announcement, and that announcement was sad. It was that this professor, a teacher, had actually passed away in his sleep. So that stayed with me. And when I went to University of Florida, I took electives in law and found I loved it and really liked it. And I said, I'm going to take the LSAT. And if I do well, I will go to law school. And if I don't, then with my undergraduate degree in business, I'll go and in the fashion industry and use that business degree to open my own store and do that. Did well with the LSAT. And from there I said, law school it is. Being Jamaican American, I was born in Jamaica, West Indies, came here with my parents in 1970, so grew up in the public school system. I thought about where did I want to go to law school. So I did apply to UF, but I also know that with my close-knit family and still feeling that need to be home, that I wanted that support if I was going to go on to law school. So I also applied to Nova, and I got into Nova. And so that made the decision to go to Nova one that I decided to pursue. So I came back to Fort Lauderdale, where I grew up, and I went to Nova Law School. And so that's really how I got to law school.
Well, that's amazing. A lot of people have someone who kind of sees a talent in them and can identify exactly where we'll fit. And with the law, it's usually being articulate, thinking through problems, right? Being able to present an argument very well, good writing skills. And I knew from watching on TV that I wanted to be a lawyer, right? And then so I had to convince people, no, I'm going to be a lawyer. So I don't need you to tell me. But some of us, someone sees a spark in us and they find it. And we can definitely see your fashion sense with your nails and your beautiful outfit today. So you're still kind of living out your fashion sense, even though you decided to pursue law. So great. So let's talk a little bit about law school. Once you got there, you're back home and, you made it through law school and you're getting to graduate. What was law school like for you? And what was your job search like after law school?
Well, I found law school to be definitely one that required dedication and hard work. It was a small law school experience, so I think that definitely fit who I was, because although I enjoyed University of Florida, it was a bigger, larger environment. With the law school experience, I felt like I was being seen, heard, not just a number. So I truly enjoyed Nova Law School. And because of that, I got to also know the professors and was able to utilize that when I graduated law school and started that job search. So the professors there had community connections, and many of them guided my path into where to look. At the time I was in law school, coming with a business degree, I thought maybe more in the area of corporate business law. So with that, I did interview with a number of firms in the Miami area, because at that time, more of the firms that was doing that type of practice were in Miami. However, on one of the occasions that I was back on at the law school campus, checking the job board, checking in with some of my professors, one of the professors, I'll never forget, Professor Richmond, saw me and he said, "Have you found a job opportunity yet?" And I said, "No, still looking. I've been in a few interviews." And he said, "Well, I have a firm that I know that's looking, and I think you'd be a good fit there." And he gave me the name of the partner of the firm, who had told him that they were looking to hire. And one of the good things is that firm had a connection with Nova Law School, because a number of their associates at that time had graduated Nova Law. And so they knew that Nova students had the knowledge, the experience in terms of coming out. I had done one of the clinics at Nova at the Securities and Exchange Commission for a couple summers. So that also gave me experience. I had also done on my own some work with some bankruptcy firms. So that's how I got my little knowledge of bankruptcy before I left law school. So with that, this firm was not a firm that did any of that. They actually did insurance defense. And I never thought I wanted to be a litigator, right? So I saw myself more in that business transactional world. However, I did go and interview and had the opportunity to start at that firm in their insurance defense department, and did a little bit of med-mal, personal injury in that department, but also the workers' comp, and felt I had an affinity for the workers' comp, and therefore decided at that time to concentrate and pivot more into their workers' compensation unit and work with that partner in the workers' compensation unit. So that's how I got my first opportunity, was that professor who, again, seeing that he thought I could do something in a litigation world where I didn't really see that, presented that opportunity for me, and I was able to get my first opportunity there. And here I am, 36 years later, still doing workers' comp in a litigation world.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I heard a lot of lessons. First, I'm going to translate some things. You said med-mal, so that's medical malpractice. For those of you who don't know it.
Yes.
It is a form of personal injury, but it's very specific. There's a whole set of rules about, medical malpractice, and it tends to involve a lot more serious injuries. Also, the professor, again, someone seeing something in you, like you said. And as a professor now, I tell students that all the time. You gotta keep an open mind. I know you have an idea in your mind of what you want to do, but you don't know what you don't know, right? Because in your mind, like, I wanted to be a public defender because I wanted to do very specific work. So in my mind, that was the only way to do it. But now I know there's like 100 ways I can not only do work that I personally enjoy and that my skills match, but have the impact that I want to have. And the great thing about a law degree is it opens so many doors for you to do so many things, because the biggest thing lawyers do is problem solve. And everyone has problems that they're looking to solve. Amen. So definitely keep an open mind for those of you who haven't found an area of practice yet. But even if you are a new lawyer in an area of practice, you're not stuck there, right? Lorna said, she's still doing it 30 years later, but she enjoys it and she's really good at it, and it matches, what she wants to do. And so let's go on to, what advice, given your journey to Esquire, do you have to offer to new and future law students?
I think you said it well. Don't lock yourself into anything in particular. Keep an open mind. Give yourself the opportunity to explore. There are so many different practice areas of the law, and just because you think that might work for you doesn't mean that you shouldn't try something else or new. I can also say one of the other advice I would give any new attorney is to get involved. I think starting out at Nova Law School, I was the president of the Black Law Students Association at Nova. And one of the things that I did as president was open the opportunity for us to meet lawyers in the community. And how I did that was I reached out to find lawyers in the community that looked like me and was willing to come in and speak to our law students. So they got to see what the practice of law was really all about. And in that regard, I got to meet who was president of the TJ Reddick, which at that time was known as the Broward Black Lawyers Association, but it's now TJ Reddick Bar Association, which is named after the first Black judge here in Broward County. However, I met Michael Robinson, who is now Judge Michael Robinson, and invited him to an event at Nova. And Nova was very supportive of us in that event to have those lawyers come into the law school so that students could actually meet and interact with lawyers out there, right? And so they came. We had a small reception, the opportunity to network and meet. And so I think from that, we got the opportunity where there was created an affiliate position for the president or whoever was designated to actually come and be a part of the TJ Reddick Black Lawyers Association board. And so that was an opportunity again for me to get involved in the community, meet lawyers. So I do think getting out when you graduate, meeting lawyers in your committee, getting in community, getting involved with the voluntary bars that you might have an affinity to, that can also set your path and support you. I know we talk a lot about mentorship, but also create sponsors. So not only mentors, but the sponsor who sees something, like I said, in you and opens those doors for you and can be an advocate for you. It's certainly, I think, something that new lawyers need to keep in mind and present themselves with that opportunity as new lawyers.
Absolutely. And the good news is, bar associations love law students. I tell law students that all the time. It's intimidating, but whenever I send a law student and I encourage them and they go to some event, they're like the star. They're like, oh, we're so happy a law student showed up. And then they're like, wow, they were so welcoming and nice. And yeah, lawyers love giving advice, and the perfect person to give it to is a law student. Yeah. So don't wait till you become a full-fledged lawyer. As a law student, get involved in your student orgs and the local bar associations. Florida has over 100 voluntary bar associations. So imagine other states, and then they're based on practice group. They're based on cultural and ethnicity. They're also based on religion. They're based on different things like locality, right? So like you said, Broward has its own bar associations. Hillsborough County, where I'm at, has them. So there's all kinds of ways to get involved. You'd mentioned earlier that you're Jamaican American and your parents immigrated here. There's a lot of Jamaican, I'm Haitian American, so a lot of Jamaican and Haitians in the practice of law, especially in Florida, which is a really interesting dynamic. But, are you a first generation lawyer? Can you talk about what that experience was like for you?
Sure. I am a first generation lawyer, so we don't have, I was the first to become a lawyer in the family. So my experience of lawyers was just like you, right? From TV, and probably the most famous for me anyway, because it's based on 36 years of practice, was growing up seeing Perry Mason, right? So on TV. So that was my only experience with lawyers or knowledge of lawyers. I would say though, that one of the great opportunities, even in middle school, and I think, I hate to be this introspective, but I think people saw that path before I even saw that, because I remember even in middle school, a guidance counselor, because at that time we were studying things about the legal field in one of the social studies class. And I remember the guidance counselor saying to me, well, have you ever thought about something in the legal field? And again, I'm going, no, because not having that experience or knowledge of that in the family. But also she took me at that time, and I had in my middle school the first opportunity to meet W. George Allen. And at that time, he was practicing with the great Alcee Hastings, two of the great men that we have lost in my lifetime. But I had the opportunity to go down to their law firm and actually sit in that law firm. So for a little girl like me, and by this point, I'm in middle school, certainly, but the opportunity to go into a law firm, to sit there, to see what they did. And even though I was interacting, I had the opportunity to meet both gentlemen, but interacting with their staff, their paralegals, and getting to see that world. I think that was the first opportunity that I saw outside of TV what a law firm could look like, right? Or the practice of law. And so at that time, even my vision was not lawyer, but if I did something like that, which again, that little girl kept saying, I don't know, it was going to be more of a paralegal, right? Yeah, it wasn't still seeing that lawyer, right? It was, okay, so even as I look back, that guidance counselor saw something that said, Lorna, you can be more than just that fashion, because even in middle school, that had always been my thing, right? So it gave me that opportunity to see that, to even think of a possibility. And it didn't really click again till high school, and Mr. Sommersdorf, my older brother, speaking to me, my family going, take advantage of these opportunities, these conversations that are coming to you, Sometimes our path is not what we think it is, and we kept looking for the signs, right? There are little signs that are telling us that that's not the path we're to take. This is the path we're to go. But
leaving little
once, right?
Leaving little breadcrumbs, so to speak,
there you
right?
go.
And then you can
Yes.
kind of follow them, and you're not
Yes.
stuck on that path. That's what's important. That, you know, people, you might hear that and you think, oh, that doesn't resonate with me, but it might not resonate with you yet.
Yes, exactly.
You know, and you said something earlier, you know, when you were in the Black Law Students Association, that a lot of people you recognized then didn't look like you. So you had Perry Mason, I had Matlock. Now, young people today have all kinds of people that look like us, but
Yes.
but even though only about 2.5% of lawyers in America are Black women.
Correct.
That's an estimate. That's probably an overestimate, but that's about where we are based on the numbers that we have. So seeing people who look like you can make a big difference. And that's another reason to get involved in the bar service, because that's where you really get to meet actual lawyers, see what they're doing, hear their stories, and get inspired. So now I know you were very involved with the Florida Bar. You spoke to our scholarship and leadership program when you were running for Florida Bar president and you were serving on the Board of Governors. Can you talk to our audience a little bit about what is all that about and what is the importance of doing that work?
Oh my, bar service, I believe, is very important from a practice standpoint, growing as a lawyer, the networking ability, the same type of mentorship and sponsorship. I started at the local level, obviously, initially as a young lawyer. And I was lucky that that first firm I joined, right, they were very involved with local bar service and encouraged their young lawyers coming in to get involved with their local bars. So that was my first parlay into bar service. And then the senior partner that I worked with at the time, he was also very involved with the workers' compensation section, right? And so I became involved with the workers' compensation section. So that also made my entry into the Florida Bar so much easier, because not only was I involved locally, but then I was involved with the Florida Bar workers' compensation section, whereas you say the Florida Bar, based on your practice area, you can become a member of that section. So because of my local service on the Young Lawyers section of the Broward County Bar and rising to the level of president, I got to go to the Florida Bar Young Lawyers Division Affiliate Outreach Conference. And that was where they invited their affiliates to come and share what they were doing from an affiliate. And then the bar could also share opportunities for their affiliates. And that was my entry at another level to Florida Bar and the governing of us as lawyers, right? So being president of my Young Lawyers section, getting to go there and seeing that opportunity. And again, seeing that from a standpoint, while there was representation, there wasn't representation of how our world looks, right? And so that was another opportunity for me to step up and say, I can make a difference here, but also learn how the bar operates, how the bar functions, because this is where I'm going to be making my living, my career, hoping to make a difference in the lives of my clients that I serve. And so that's how I got to be involved on the Florida Bar on the state level, leaving imprint on the local level to a more state level. Then I became a member of the Young Lawyers Division of the Florida Bar. And from there, had the opportunity in 2009 after aging off. So we age off, right? Who tells us at 36 that we are no longer a young lawyer, right? But yeah, so after being off for a while off the Young Lawyers Board because I aged off, I then had the opportunity to run for a position on the Florida Bar Board of Governors, which then is for the entire, what we are now 100,000 plus lawyers, right? At that time, it wasn't 100,000, but it was getting there. I did run in 2009. Did not win my first time out in that election. I lost by 300 and some votes. So it said to me, run again, the next opportunity. And in 2012, I then ran and was successful. That was a seat that became open when Eugene Pettis, who was actually also at that time a former law partner. So my career had moved on, right? So I had actually worked with Eugene Pettis, who had happened to meet at University of Florida in undergrad. Although we both grew up in Broward, we had never crossed paths until University of Florida. And I happened to be at the courthouse in Broward County and ran into Eugene. And then a few years later, had the opportunity to join him at his firm, where I also was a partner at his firm until 1999 when I left that firm. But in the meantime, Gene had also become a member of the Florida Bar Board of Governors, and he ran for president and was successful, and his seat became open. And so that was an opportunity for me to run again. I ran again in 2012 and was successful to be on the Florida Bar Board of Governors. And so the Florida Bar Board of Governors is just like it is. It's a branch. We're all under the Florida Supreme Court. And the Florida Bar Board of Governors is the branch, let's say, that governs the 100, now 1,000 plus lawyers under the auspices of the Florida Supreme Court. So we take our directions from the Florida Supreme Court. They give us certain duties and responsibilities. Among that is the providing the education and resources for our lawyers, right? So that's where you deal with member benefits, your continuing legal education, the sections and what those sections provide in terms of your education and continuing to grow your practice. But we also, which is, I think a well-kept secret, support lawyers who want to go and open their own practice. We do provide that. We have, it was initially known as Law Office Management Assistance Service with LOMAS, and it's still there, but it's under another name now, Practice Resource Institute. And now we also have under that what's called Legal Fuel. But we help at the beginning stages for those firms, for people attorneys, I should say, that want to go and open their own shingles, that we can actually help set you up for a very small fee to make sure you start out right? And that you are able to practice in a way that doesn't get you in trouble, hopefully, with the Florida Bar. Because one of the things that we do is discipline lawyers, right? And we regulate lawyers. And so I have to say that's probably the least favorite part of serving on the Florida Bar Board of Governors. It is totally volunteer. It's nothing that we get paid to do. It's totally volunteer, but it's a board made up of 50 lawyers and 2 lay people that are our public members, as we call them, that are appointed by the Florida Supreme Court. And so that's how I got to the Florida Bar Board of Governors. But it, again, started out with a local, being involved locally with the voluntary bars, having the opportunity to then go to the affiliate outreach conference, which now has grown to an extent that it encompasses not only those that are the young lawyers section of a local bar, such as your Hillsborough County Bar Association. They have a young lawyers section, but it's now expanded over the years to capture other voluntary bars, right? Because previously, that wasn't a part of the way, but the Florida Bar, as the Board of Governors is again to look at how we can best serve our attorneys. And one of the things that we looked at, being also a former liaison to what's known as the Voluntary Bar Liaison, Voluntary Bar Liaison Committee, sorry, long name. What that does is it's now a liaison to all those other voluntary bars that are out there, right? And now the Young Lawyers Division of the Florida Bar can capture those 100, 200 plus voluntary bars that are out there and provide them also their resources, right? Because here's the thing. As young lawyers on a local level, you may not be totally able to be exposed to the state bar, right? Because it is a time commitment, and you're still growing as a lawyer. But if we can bring those resources to you through your local bar that you may have more an affinity to, you then can grow and get the same type of resources, and then translate it as you grow as a lawyer to being more active and understanding how the Florida bar works, right?
So that's great. Yeah. So you've laid out the path for how to start to get involved. And I just want to clarify some things. In Florida, the Florida Bar is the mandatory bar association if you want to be admitted to practice in the state of Florida.
Correct.
And then so the Board of Governors is under that mandatory organization, as you said, led by the Florida Supreme Court that guides them. And part of it is supporting lawyers and also disciplining, because the public trusts us and we need to maintain that trust. Lawyers like to be self-governed. That's in the news a lot now for various reasons, but lawyers do like to be self-governed. And the great news is there are lots of entry points. And so we don't want you to get overwhelmed, right? And in whatever state you're in, just check in. What's my local bar association? What's that one step I can take to get involved? Whether it's a practice area, an affinity group, or, there's women, there's young lawyers, there's Black bars, Asian bars, etc. And then make that your entry point. If you like it, there's lots more where you can get more and more involved as you become more experienced.
Amen.
So thank you, Lorna. You've given us so much to think about. Thank you so much for sharing your journey to Esquire. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, how can they reach out?
Oh my, actually, they're welcome to reach out to me I'm on Facebook. I am also on LinkedIn, but they can also reach me through my firm's website, which is Lubell Rosen. And actually also they're welcome to email me. They can look that up. The email address is but it's lbb@lubellrosen.com, one word. Or they can also look me up on the Florida Bar website, and it has all my contact information there. They're welcome to also call the firm, which is 954-601-4240. So many ways to reach out. And thank you again for the opportunity. If I can just give one more plug, because I am so proud of this, is Eugene Pettis created what's known as the Leadership Academy. And I would encourage any new lawyer, after especially about 5 years of practice, getting involved, because it's another opportunity to get involved with the Florida Bar at the Florida Bar level by learning about leadership opportunities and how the Florida Bar operates. So I think it's a great resource that the Florida Bar also provides its lawyers. It spans not only new lawyers, but some a little bit more seasoned lawyer who want to know about how the Florida Bar operates, but it's certainly an opportunity to take advantage of as well.
Absolutely. It's such a great program. They're going to be celebrating at the Florida Bar Convention, the new class and the outgoing class. So if you're going to be at the Florida Bar Convention, definitely check it out. Thank you so much, Lorna.
Thank you.
And for everyone, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another great episode of Journey to Esquire, the podcast. Support, share, subscribe. And for more, visit www.journeytoesquire.com.